Hello, everyone. Jay Leno was the smiling face of late-night television, the man who tucked America into bed with a laugh, a monologue, and a wink. As the longtime host of The Tonight Show, he was the king of comedy, the everyman who made millions feel like they were sitting in his garage, just talking about life and cars. But behind the shiny cars, the million-dollar smile, and the steady charm, Jay Leno was living a double life, one so carefully hidden that even his closest friends in Hollywood didn't truly understand the depth of it until recently. While the world saw a tireless entertainer obsessed with engines and punchlines, few knew about the pain, sacrifice, and loneliness that quietly defined his private world for more than 30 years. His story is not one of scandal or betrayal, but one of devotion, endurance, and heartbreak. A tale of a man who lived two lives, one in front of the cameras and one behind the garage door. Jay Leno's public life was well documented. The comedy clubs of the 1970s, the rise to stardom in the 1980s, and the battle for the Tonight Show throne against David Letterman that defined a generation of television. He was the ultimate professional, known for never missing a show, never drinking, never doing drugs, and never letting the audience see him sweat. But beneath that disciplined exterior was a man who carried the weight of an enormous secret. His life wasn't as effortless as it seemed. For years, Jay's marriage to his wife Mavis was seen as one of Hollywood's most stable. No scandals, no affairs, no tabloid drama. What no one knew, however, was that Mavis had been struggling with serious health issues for much of their marriage, forcing Jay to live in a delicate balance between his public duties as an entertainer and his private role as a caretaker. While he cracked jokes about politicians and pop culture each night, he was often going home to worry about the woman who meant everything to him, a reality that he quietly shouldered for decades, refusing to let the public see his pain. Jay Leno has always been known for his extraordinary work ethic, performing hundreds of stand-up shows a year, even while hosting The Tonight Show, never taking vacations, never missing an episode. Many assumed this was simply his nature, a blue-collar comedian who couldn't sit still. But what few realized was that Jay's relentless schedule wasn't just about passion. It was about distraction. The stage was his therapy, his way of coping with the fear of losing the one person who had been his anchor since the beginning. Mavis, his wife since 1980, has been the quiet constant in his life, a fiercely private woman who rarely appeared in public. While Jay became one of the most recognized faces in America, Mavis preferred to stay out of the spotlight, devoting her energy to humanitarian causes and women's rights. But behind that quiet dignity, she endured a long and difficult health journey, one that Jay never spoke about publicly until much later. Those close to him say that his nightly performances weren't just for the audience. They were his way of keeping himself together, of holding back the heartbreak that came with watching someone you love fade in strength. The second life Jay Leno lived was one of service and sacrifice. For over 3 decades, while the world saw him as a comedian obsessed with cars, his true passion was much deeper, caring for his wife and protecting her privacy at all costs. Unlike many celebrities who publicly document every detail of their lives, Jay made it his mission to shield Mavis from the chaos of fame. When she was hospitalized or undergoing treatment, Jay never canceled a show, never mentioned it in interviews, and never used it for sympathy. Instead, he poured himself into his craft, performing as if nothing was wrong. Those who worked closely with him noticed that Jay rarely stayed out late or attended Hollywood events. After the lights went off, he would drive home, often quietly sitting with Mavis, watching old movies or just being there. It was a simple, selfless routine, the life of a man who found his true purpose not in applause, but in love. But Jay's double life wasn't only emotional, it was also physical. In recent years, fans were shocked to learn that Leno himself had been through a series of devastating health scares, all of which he tried to downplay. In 2022, he suffered severe burns to his face and hands after one of his beloved vintage cars caught fire in his Los Angeles garage. Just months later, he broke multiple bones in a motorcycle accident. These back-to-back tragedies would have been cause to step away, to rest, to slow down. But Jay, ever the stoic, returned to the stage within weeks, his face bandaged but his humor intact. He smiled, joked, and told interviewers he was fine. But those who knew him saw the toll it was taking. Beneath the laughter was a man who had spent his life putting everyone else first, his audience, his wife, his crew, while quietly ignoring his own pain. This was the heartbreaking truth of Jay Leno's double life. He wasn't living for himself, he was living for others. Through it all, Jay's loyalty to Mavis never wavered. The couple's love story is one of Hollywood's rare examples of unwavering commitment. They never had children by mutual choice, but their bond was stronger than many could imagine. In interviews, Jay often described Mavis as the reason he never got lost in fame, the one who kept him grounded. He often said he had no regrets about their childless marriage because Mavis was enough for him. But as her health declined, Jay Leno's Garage, Jay Leno Garage, Jay Leno Car Collection, Jay Leno Life, Jay Leno Life Story, Jay Leno Wife, Jay Leno Interview, Jay Leno Accident, Jay Leno Love of His Life, Jay Leno Story, Jay Leno Today, Jay Leno Facts, Jay Leno Biography, Jay Leno Family, Double Life, faced his greatest test. In late 2023, Mavis was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and for the first time, the man who had built his entire career on keeping his private life separate from his public one was forced to confront that reality in front of the world. Fans were stunned to learn that Jay had become his wife's full-time caretaker, driving her to appointments, making sure she never felt alone, and even petitioning for legal conservatorship to protect her well-being. Suddenly, the picture became clear. The man who had made millions laugh for decades had been quietly fighting one of life's most heartbreaking battles, watching the love of his life slowly forget him. This revelation reframed everything people thought they knew about Jay Leno. His tireless energy, his refusal to retire, his endless touring. It all came from a man running from silence, from the heartbreak of watching his best friend disappear piece by piece. While most comedians crave attention, Jay craved normalcy. He never spent his Tonight Show money, living instead off his stand-up gigs, not because of greed, but because he wanted security for Mavis, to ensure that no matter what happened, she would always be taken care of. It's a story that's not about double-dealing or deceit, but about the quiet heroism that exists behind the curtain. For more than 30 years, Jay Leno lived two lives, one for the world, where laughter was his shield, and one for love, where devotion was his burden and his gift. Now, in his 70s, Jay continues to work, not out of necessity, but because it's the only way he knows to survive the pain. When he's on stage, he can pretend for an hour or two that everything is still the way it was, that Mavis is home waiting for him, smiling, remembering every joke. But when the laughter fades and the crowd goes home, he returns to a quieter world, one filled with memories, heartbreak, and the echoes of a love that time can't erase. Jay Leno's double life isn't one of scandal, but of strength. It's the story of a man who gave everything to the world and even more to the woman he loved, all while hiding his sorrow behind a grin that millions mistook for perfection. And now, as the truth comes to light, fans finally understand that the laughter Jay gave us all those years wasn't just comedy, it was courage. His life reminds us that even the happiest faces can hide the deepest pain, and that behind every joke, there's often a story too heavy to tell. One that proves the greatest kind of love is the one that endures in silence. Thanks for watching.